Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Manton, AMCTO President and General Manager of Corporate Services at the City of Cambridge. I'm excited to bring you this next edition of the Municipal Monitor Extra. Today, I'm joined by Thomas Thayer, Chief Administrative Officer at the Municipality of Bayham, to talk about his 2025 Q4 article and research paper studying CAO education and career trajectories in Ontario. So welcome, Thomas.
Thank you, Danielle. It's nice to be here.
Thomas, your article presents a summary of some of your key research findings on CAO career paths and trajectories in Ontario that you did as part of a more fulsome report for the Western MPA program. What made you decide to pursue this as a topic for a research area?
Well, being a CAO myself, I really wanted to do something that had practical application to the sector. We know a lot about the challenges that are facing municipalities these days. I mean, Stratcorp, they have an annual survey of CAOs, for instance. The AMCTO membership and other professional organizations, they're very attuned to sector-wide impacts, but what we don't have is an understanding of the collective education and career trajectories of those individuals who often lead municipalities through the challenges. So I wanted to better understand that aspect. And luckily, when I approached Western and OMAA about doing something, they were both on board for it.
That's great. One of the things I found interesting in the article is when you talked about the trend between Canadian CAOs and those in American cities. Through the survey, your results found that American chief administrative officers tend to stay in their roles a lot longer than those in Canada and those in Ontario specifically, where the position is viewed as more of a career capstone rather than a long-term agreement. Why do you think that is?
That's a really good question. The study really didn't get a lot into like the why of American CAOs and city managers. We just didn't have the scope for doing something that big. What I would note is that, in the American literature, you got like 6 or 7 years for a CAO, for instance. In Ontario, it's 4.5. Those are average values. What you find when you look at the data is that the median is actually quite a bit lower. So in Ontario, it's 3 years. In the US, it's actually somewhere in the mid fours. So you have some long tenured CAOs that are pulling that average up. But on the whole, you're liable to see a CAO turn over in any given municipality during a standard election term. Now, why it's longer in the States, it could be conjecture, but it could be tied to, say, the tenure of mayors. So what the research tends to show is that push factors are a big component of whether a CAO stays in a municipality or not. And that, it's basically in staff and council relations. So if you have council turnover or turnover at the mayor position, that may be a push factor that pushes the CAO out either, through their own means going somewhere else or via termination. As for the career capstone side of it, I think a lot of city managers and CAOs for bigger municipalities, for instance, I think in the US, they have more MPAs and there's a more defined pipeline for actually developing individuals for those positions compared to Canada. So you have people that will come out of school at a younger age, knowing where they want to go rather than Canada and Ontario, where I think it's a little bit more organic. Also, from like a geographic perspective, when you look at urban areas in the US, they're more fragmented. So if you have, say, 200 square kilometers, for instance, you're going to have more cities, more smaller municipalities in that area than you are going to have in Ontario. And if we consider, someone's personal life, for instance, as a variable, people aren't really willing to uproot themselves for a career. Younger individuals are less likely to do that. So if you can become a CAO and move around without having to uproot yourself, you're more likely to do that. If you can't do that, then you're going to take the time and you're going to work up within the same geographical area. And that may take you a little bit more time, but it lends itself to being a career capstone rather than developing career CAOs that are in, 3, 4, 5 different municipalities over the course of their career.
Wow, that's so interesting. I'd never thought about it that way, but that's very interesting. What, as we here in Ontario navigate some pretty complex legislation, in your own opinion, do you see things like strong mayor powers affecting some of this? Yes, I did it. I put it out there. Sorry.
Okay, this is a little bit of speculation on my part. Like when we
Mhm.
did the survey, we were hoping to collect data on strong mayor powers. We wanted to have some insight into, what turnover was occurring in strong mayor municipalities, who was being appointed to, CAO position with those powers. And it may have been, bad timing, for instance, but when the survey went live, only a few days later, the province came out and said, "Hey, we're expanding powers to 169 more municipalities." So essentially what it did is it rendered the data relatively stale. Like we couldn't really use much of that for strong mayors, but I think what's going to be really important for strong mayor powers is watching the first, year or two after the upcoming election. Um, Currently, the municipalities that have strong mayor powers and the mayors that wield those powers didn't run in 2022 knowing they were coming. But in 26, you're going to have an entire suite of candidates across Ontario in a number of municipalities that know these powers are there and then know that they have the opportunity to use them. I think that's going to change a lot of the dynamics around councils. That's going to change a lot of the just general electoral dynamics when it comes to campaigning. And that definitely will have an impact to the staffing council, the CAO and mayor relationship, which is really integral to CAO tenure.
Mhm.
It's going to be really important to watch the first 12 to 24-ish months after the election to see if turnover actually increases. And I'm hoping there are academics out there that are taking a look at this.
And hopefully some candidates that are educating themselves before they decide if they're going to run or not.
Hopefully, best case scenario.
In your article, you talk about the benefits of mentorship for current and aspiring CAOs. So, as a CAO yourself, how has mentorship benefited you in your career?
I think my first experience with a mentor would have been in 2020. I kind of like organically found my way out of my education at the time in planning through data into clerks and thought to myself, you know what, I could probably be a CAO one day. Let's give that a shot. And then so I started looking at, professional designations, and one of the clerks in the area happened to have their CMO and kind of took me under her wing and led me through the process, and then kind of put a bug in my ear about what sort of skills and things I should be focusing on, not necessarily in my CMO application, but just in your career more general. And they ended up being soft skills, like leadership, the ability to be politically acute and attuned to changing dynamics and things when you're bringing reports forward or when you're managing staff or what happened, or whatever that looks like. I think it gave me a different perspective on the role in the sector. It also gave me a different perspective on what my strengths and my weaknesses may be. The other part of that too, I try to give back as much as possible. So I'm involved with the AMCTO mentorship program. I've been doing that for 4 years. And I find that I learn a lot from my mentees just because they tend to come from different backgrounds, have different education, work for different municipalities. And I'm a firm believer that you can learn something from everybody. Now, usually you hope that it's going to be something that you can actually use yourself to improve your career, but sometimes very much it's something that you should avoid. And those things are equally as important, and they both serve important purposes.
Well, thanks for that. I know myself, experiences through AMCTO's mentorship program have been so rewarding as a mentor, but you're exactly right. I've learned more from my mentees than I would have thought when I went into the relationship. And I came away with so many friendships and relationships rather than just this professional kind of duo thing that's set up. So it's really quite a valuable program.
I think it is. I mean, you know what? I think it's important to tell your mentees that too, that you're learning from them, because I think a lot
Mhm.
of mentees, they join a mentorship program wanting to learn, and they're nervous about talking to somebody in a higher position. But
Absolutely.
it's not like that at all. I learn more from
Yeah.
my mentees than I often do other CAOs. So it's really important to reinforce that. I think it adds to the relationship.
Yes, absolutely. Succession planning is also key for any organization's growth and sustainability, and this is especially important when within the Ontario municipal sector as we see more professionals retiring. And career growth and development is essential for local government administrators to close knowledge gaps and continuing to provide effective service delivery to our communities and residents. So, based on your research, Thomas, and your experience, what should CAOs and other senior professionals keep in mind when it comes to succession planning in their organizations or elsewhere?
That's a good question, Danielle. I'll be the first to admit this, having worked for a number of different municipalities, that I don't think there's a magic bullet for this at all. I think with every organization being different, from a structure perspective, budgetary perspective, or just simply the ability to be able to recruit people. The important constant here is to know the people that you have and to find people within your organization who have aspirations above where they already are, giving them opportunities to grow where they are instead of, uh, essentially letting them stagnate because then they'll ultimately want to move somewhere else. I think most people don't want to relocate for their job. I think they have other things more important, like their kids are in a school district and their spouse has they don't want to move for their own work.
Mhm.
So if you
Mhm.
can give them stretch experiences over where they are and you understand where they want to go in your career, I think you're more likely to keep them because if their development where they're at outstrips their want to move faster, you will keep them longer. Now, whether you keep them all the way to where they want to be, I don't know. But if for every day you keep somebody around, it's better for the municipality, it's better for you, it's better for council, it's better for the residents. So if you can tap into that ambition, you can potentially develop people to move up and maintain their institutional knowledge and assist the municipality where they are. And I think that's something that can be applied to every municipality out there.
Absolutely. And a big focus on that, like the retention is key, right? So focusing on your culture so that you can keep the good employees that you already have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And finally, what advice would you give, Thomas, to those that are looking to pursue a career as a CAO?
Learn from my mistakes and figure it out early. If I had known the CAO or clerk or something was a viable career trajectory, I probably wouldn't have done planning as a career. I probably would have done something in poli sci to get me there sooner. But I suppose that's kind of like part of life. You just kind of figure it out as you go. So know early on where you want to go, or at least high level, like, hey, I want to be in admin, or want to be in public works, or want to be in planning. And know that your career path will probably not be linear. But as long as you kind of know in the direction you want to go, you'll be able to, stave off some of the pitfalls that might come up. And the other part is just reiterating one of the previous points was just make sure you find people that you can talk to and learn from, whether it's a
Mhm.
mentor in your organization or someone outside of your organization, helping you, find resources or suggest a certification or suggest an area that you may want to hone in your own, personality or skill set will probably put you further ahead faster than if you had attempted to do it yourself. And this is why the report and the article keep coming back to mentorship. I think it's not only beneficial to CAOs, but anyone in the membership, anyone in the municipal sector, and it's why mentorship programs are important and will continue to be important.
Some excellent points. Thank you so much, Thomas, for your research and for taking the time to dig a little bit more into the work that you've done here. If you haven't had a chance to read Thomas's article, you can read it in the Municipal Monitor 2025 Q5 edition. And you can also read the full research paper entitled To Know Where You're Going, You Must Know Where You Are, a study of CAO career trajectories in Ontario, Canada. And this is located on the Western University's Masters in Public Administration paper repository. I've read the paper myself. It is such an easy read and an enjoyable one. So thank you so much for being with us today, Thomas. And thanks everyone for watching and wishing everyone a happy and healthy 2026.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was fun to be here and talk about the research, and hopefully it gives a lot of people benefit. And if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me.
Thanks, everyone.